Good, good morning, everybody. It's Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're gonna give some answers to some questions that I got over the weekend on the site. We're gonna talk about three different things with arbitration, repossession, medical bill summons. We're going to get into some positive mind treatments because I see that a lot of people are getting a buildup. And let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is one of our clients, and if you've probably seen it in a video that we had a while back, where he was summoned to court. We saw on his credit reports that the debt collector had actually purchased the debt, but they did a summons in court for saying that they were suing, that the debt collector was suing on the behalf of the credit card company, and we had told them exactly what to do. We said this is what you should do. Connected him with an attorney in his area. Well, in the area that he was originally from, we could not connect him with an attorney in the area that he was at currently, which was a huge problem, not being able to do that. But he went into court himself, and when he went in, they pulled a switcheroo, which in some states they're allowed to do this. And I see a lot of credit card companies switch into this new way of taking people to court if they don't pay their bills, which is to use arbitration. You've probably seen this out there where you've maybe looked at maybe on credit card contracts. A lot of them are saying that rather than going to court, that you will sit in front of an arbiter, and the arbiter is to listen to both sides, and then they'll make a decision on if you're going to have to pay or not. The problem with that is that is set up, though, when they have arbitration, those are things that are set up outside of the court, and whatever is decided, which you don't have the same rights that you would in court, is that it's going to make it very hard for you to win, because basically the things that you would be able to ask for validation of debt, the amounts, the contracts, all of that stuff, when you go into an arbitration proceeding, they are considering all of that stuff to be true, and basically what you're arguing over is going to basically be the amounts, whatever you feel is not correct about what you're doing. But basically what it comes out to is you're it's a negotiation strategy, negotiation part, because you're going to be going back and forth with the arbitrator. Once they say that the original creditor or the debt collector has won, you're basically in a negotiation phase. You're not going to be in a phase of where you're going to be able to start challenging. And I know this because we just had one of our clients go through this in one of the states. And but when you do lose an arbitration, the next step is that you, before they can allow it to become a judgment, is that you can appeal it, and then that's when you would go to court. And what they try to do is they try to get you into the situation where you have to spend money. It's like they flipped it. They spent money to get into arbitration, which they would have spent if they would have taken it to a court summons. But what they did is they flipped it, and they said, we're going to spend the money that we normally spend, but when we win, they would have to spend money to prove to if they want to get this reversed. So they know the situation of people is that if you're already having money problems, you're not, if you lose, you're not going to try to go back into court and spend money and then end up going back into court again, which is what ends up happening with people in this type of situation. He decided he did appeal, and I think it was $110 to appeal it. He had two different cases that they got temporary judgments on, and for him not to have it put on his credit right away, he had to appeal it. He appealed both. I believe that he's going to win when he goes into court, because when he talked to me on the phone about what happened when he was in arbitration, is that the attorney for the plaintiff was very quiet when he asked for specific information. And because it was an arbitration hearing, it was going to basically just be on what was submitted already. It wasn't going to allow any new information to be brought into there. And so now when he goes to court, which will be next month, and we'll get you an update on that, I believe that he will win, because there's several problems with this. One of the biggest problems is that he has proof that the debt collection company purchased the debt, and that this was a debt collection company collecting on behalf of that debt collector, but they did the original summons for the arbitration. That document that they had was placed as if they were suing for the credit card company. And actually during the arbitration proceedings, they still stated that it was for the credit card company, but the way that they were wording it to him when he was explaining it to me is that they were saying this is for the credit card debt. And when you listen to words, like, people can play games with you on the way that they say things, but they don't mean things. This is we are doing this for the credit card company's debt. That does not mean that they're doing it for the credit card company. It just means that they're doing it for the credit card debt. And that's what, how these companies, and they get away with doing this stuff. Not to say that if you owe a debt, you're going to have to pay a debt that you owe if it's validated. But it's not right that they play tricks and do things to get around the legal system, to get you to have to pay a debt that you legally don't have to pay a debt on, especially if it's been sold, and then they're trying to come after you for a debt and they don't have all the paperwork to validate that they can legally collect that debt, that they're just using a lot of legal strategies to get away with doing that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is we had a question for someone that asked questions about a repossession, and when they talked about the repossession, they said that they were getting garnished for the repossession, and they went into, do they have a right? They're being garnished for the full amount of the car, and that did they have a right to challenge and see how much the car was sold at auction. And you do have a right to see that, but what I'm thinking, unless it's different in their state, is that when you get a garnishment, it's already went through a phase of where you got a judgment. Because at least in my state, you can't get a garnishment without first winning a court judgment. And during the court judgment during that proceeding is when you are supposed to ask the questions about, let me see what the car sold for, look at the contract to make sure that everything was above board, make sure that there was no insurances that could have paid off the vehicle. There's all types of payment insurances that these finance companies or the auto dealers are just attaching on as extras onto these loans, and you want to make sure that they wasn't attached on there. But if you already have a judgment, unless it's during the time frame, in my state of Wisconsin, you get 6 months to open a judgment back up and go back into court, and then you could ask for that stuff. But if it's past 6 months, even if they are lying in court, there's still nothing that you could do, because that's the time frame, the legal time frame for you to bring that back up. And what I'm thinking in this situation, because they're already at a garnishment, that the time for either if it's fresh, you may have time to go back and see if you can get it reopened, and then to see if you can get the statement to see what the car actually sold for. But if it's past that time frame, You need to start looking forward to, and this is for anyone, not just this person. If it's past the time frame that you can reopen a judgment and they have a garnishment, you need to focus on what the next step is, which is to get the garnishment worksheet to make sure that they don't garnish you for more money than they're legally allowed to. You need to look up your state's poverty. Some states call it a poverty guideline. Even if you're not in poverty, they just call it that. It's a play on words. Or some of them say garnishment exemption guidelines. Look that up for your state, because depending upon your income, either on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis, and your dependents, the children or people that you're taking care of in your house, you may not even qualify to be garnished. And in the garnishment worksheet, there's a certain amount that they allow you. You are allowed to live, at least in most states. They don't want you not to be able to live to push you into a bankrupt situation. You fill out the garnishment worksheet, and then they're not. They can only garnish a certain amount of your disposable income. Now I have. There was another question about medical bill summons. Person here on YouTube got a summons for medical bills, and they were like, I do not see the questions that you're talking about. You say answer the questions, and they also said that they never signed the signed the summons order, that it was just placed in their PO box. And in most states, they only have to send it to the last address, and then they might have to publish it it does get published in the newspaper. When you have a court summons, you may not notice that there is a summons notice in your daily newspaper. With my publishing company, there's several people that downtown, they publish those notices in my weekly newspaper for people that are being summoned to court. So what they do is they don't have to give it to you. If you're not there, they can send it to the last known address, and they have that recorded, and then they'll publish it in one of the newspapers, usually the daily paper, or it could even be a regular publication that's known around the community. And that's all they have to do, and then they can just go to court. If you don't show up, they'll get a default judgment. But now they said, I don't see where to answer the questions. I don't see questions. Again, what the questions look like statements. It could be, this is your name and you reside at this address. That's a statement that they're making to the court, but that's a question to you. And so all of those paragraphs, and they're usually separated, short sentences, you need to answer those. So you could say to number one, yes, this is my name, I live at this address. Number two, they say that you owe this amount, $8,000 or $25,000 for medical bills. You could say, I dispute the amount. And then when you go to court, you would give them your reasons for disputing the amount. Plus, you should also put them in your summons too, that you dispute the amount, because it could be, some of it could have been paid in with insurances, or I dispute the amount because of the services. Whatever the reasons that you believe that either the amount is not right, or you are disputing the amount because of a reason. It can't just be because I want to run from the debt. And you must answer all of those. So all of those paragraphs, you must answer them, even if it just seems like something that's just true, about the address and all that stuff. Just say to number one, I don't dispute. Or to A, it might be A, B, C, D, or it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they number them. Just say, I don't dispute, I don't dispute. And then the stuff that you do dispute, or you have questions about, those are the ones that you put your answers to those, and you put a legitimate reason on why, and then you have to send that to the court, and you have to send that to the debt collection attorney within the time frame that's listed on the court summons. All right, so now let's move on and let's talk about positive thinking, because let me take a quick drink here. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. I see it in the questions. I'm seeing it in the news. I'm seeing it with a lot of people that we talk to over the phone, hearing it. There's a build-up in people because you have, number one, first of the year, people are thinking about changing their lives, New Year's resolutions. But when you think about changing your lives and doing things and becoming a better person or losing weight or whatever you intensify on one side is going to intensify on the opposite side. It's like there's an equal and opposite reaction on the other side unless you are prepared mentally prepared. And the only way to fight the opposite reaction on the other side is to think positive and to put a picture in your mind of things being resolved. So you have two things. Let's look at it. On one side, I'm going to make these changes in my life. On the other side, soon as you start to do that, the scale starts to stack with all of the reasons that you can't do it and all of the things that you're facing. And so you have one side, I want to change, I want to do better. And on the other side, you have all of the stuff that you got to fix. And then you have all of the excuses that pile up on why it hasn't worked in the past. So you have two things that tip the scale against you against your positive thinking, against your positive mind of what you want to change. The way to balance the scale back is to focus on the goal, the positive outcome. The positive outcome. So you have what I want to do, what I want to change, and then you start imagining and seeing yourself as if it already has happened. Now the scales are even. The scales are even when you do that. And the way that you attack, because the negative scale is a fake one. It's full of false beliefs. It's full of false ideas. It's full of false things that people maybe have told you, false things that you told yourself about what you can and can't do in your life, false things about how you've lived your life, and that you think that's that's the way it's going to be. So it's full with that, but all of that stuff is fake. All of that stuff will crumble in an instant when you overload it with positive visual feeling, thinking, over and over, repetition, over and over again. When you wake up in the morning, picture yourself with you won the arbitration. Picture yourself, you figured out a solution for the garnishment, for the repossession, for the medical bills. There's a resolution that happened. You don't have to know what it's going to be or how. You just have to start thinking positive, and then these different options will just come to you. I'm giving you options. I'm part of the options that come to you from you asking me questions on what should I do next. And then things will come to your mind. When they respond to you, things will come to your mind, because you'll say, oh, what they just said here doesn't match up with what the judge maybe said or what the paperwork says. When you think positive and you're thinking about how you're going to feel when all of this stuff is resolved, wonders, miracles will happen in your favor, but you have to be open to allowing them to happen. If you let that negative scale keep overweighing the positive scale, nothing's going to happen. So you have your scales together. Got my hands here. The scales are even, and then every day when you wake up, you feel like things are getting done. You're positive minded. You're giving yourself affirmations. You're seeing yourself with all of this stuff resolved. You see yourself. You can't just see a goal without you being in it. You have to picture yourself in that goal. Picture yourself. How would you feel? How would you react? What would you do that day, knowing that all of this stuff was resolved? What would you do? how would you feel? How would you react to your family? How are you going to react with your family after the stuff and all of that pressure is gone? Start feeling that right now, because that's what's going to bring that scale more in that positive side, and it's going to mess it up, and it's going to be like this, because you're going to overweigh all of that negative side of the scale, and all of a sudden it's going to start crumbling. All of that negative stuff is going to crumble and go away. It's not even going to exist the same way that it exists now, because you're going to take control of your mind. You're not going to let your mind just be rambling with subconscious thoughts. You're going to tell your mind what to do and what to think about, and you're going to tell your body how to react, and you're going to tell your body what to do. You're going to tell your body how to feel, and you're going to see yourself in that new experience, in that new life that you created, not no one else created that for you, that you created. So when you want to make changes in your life moving forward, you know that you are responsible for that, and that you can make those changes. No one else can make those changes. Ooh, I got heated with that one. So I'm going to end the video there, and I want you to repeat watching these videos. Watch other videos that I have for solutions, detailed solutions on repos and medical bills and summons and stuff to do when you run into this. I have plenty of videos on what to do, detailed videos on what to do with those. If you need help, visit our website, thecreditrepairshop.com. If you need your credit reports and scores, and again, I repeat, everything starts with knowing exactly what's on your credit reports and seeing what your scores are. That's where everything starts when it goes to starting to move forward with this. Go to my website, your3scores.com, your3scores.com. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to it. I really appreciate it. Share this information with your friends, family. Share it with other people. Like the videos. I really appreciate it. And most importantly, ask your questions. There's no stupid question. Ask it, because what I want to help you do is to get you properly aligned by listening to your questions and then showing you the next step. Because just like with some of these questions here, the next step needed to be another step, not the step that they were really thinking about. So again, this is Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. Thank you for your time.